The 3.5-minute long Nintendo Switch trailer left us with even more questions than we had before.
Let's go!
Man, we learned a lot, but they sure teased us.
Oh
man.
my goodness, there's so much packed into there and so much that's not packed into there that it's just teased us. It's not like what is happening. It's like, I get what's happening, but how?
Exactly.
Oh,
so
cool.
One of the big things we need to know is if this plans to replace the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo is being really purposefully vague and kind of somewhat contradictory about this right now, because they've released a couple statements that kind of seem to be in opposition to one another. So one said, this isn't really a successor to Wii U or 3DS. It's its brand new own thing. And then the second thing said, this is primarily a home console. It's the successor to the Wii U, and a successor to the 3DS is coming in a while. Now, we just have to kind of look to the past for this one, because it's really similar to what they said when the DS was announced. They said this is the third pillar. We're going to have three main things. We're pushing GameCube, Game Boy Advance, and DS isn't replacing the Game Boy Advance. But that was a complete lie, because
it literally had a card slot for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the things Nintendo does when they're waiting to see how it does, because the 3DS install base is really large. It's like, 50 million, I believe. Whereas the Wii U only got to, 12, 15. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're comfortable saying we're done with the 3DS until this thing has some millions of sales. So
we have to look at what we can tell. What's the difference between the two? Is
3D
and touchscreen.
Yeah.
And dual obviously, screen. Dual screen, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
User interface is going to be different, but
you want to know how you succeed the 3DS? You release Pokemon, Monster Hunter, and Yokai Watch all in 1 year on the Switch that you can't get on the 3DS, and boom, you've replaced your console and you've unified your fan base. So I really hope they go that route.
I hope so too.
We didn't see any touch or motion controls, so what do you think? You think they're gone?
I think that they are. I think that if they were present, there would have been at least one moment in the trailer that we would have seen that.
Yeah.
But especially with the guy on the plane, not that the plane would be the place, but he had each one in his hand.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't doing anything with it.
He wasn't pointing. He wasn't drawing a bow or anything like that.
No, he was just going like this.
Yeah.
I think that they're gone, which
I agree.
I'm kind of sad because there's certain things that we won't get back, at least for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I think that just makes me want to go back and play my old games.
There you go.
Not look forward to new games.
I also think that the battery situation is pretty mysterious.
Very.
Of course, the Switch console tablet itself is going to have its own battery, but then we get to the Joy-Cons. Those are each going to need their own power because you can play them separated from the console. So is the console going to charge them? Are they only going to charge when they're on the dock with the console? Or is the Joy-Con grip going to charge them up somewhat? I mean, if you're just playing with one and then you go to plug them both in, or is your left side going to die first and then you can't play the whole thing? Or do you have three batteries, one on each side and one in the middle, and they kind of
even out?
You know what I'm saying? Like in Star Wars, when Anakin is pod racing and then he distributes the power.
Redistributes the power. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Man.
The battery situation is probably one of the most mysterious because we don't see any cords.
No.
Ever at all. There's nothing. The Pro Controller's not plugging into something.
Nope.
We don't really see anything plug into the screen at all.
You're right, except for a headphone. We saw a headphone jack, but we never saw a jack for a power cord. So can you charge your Nintendo Switch
without the dock
when you take it on the go? I would really assume so.
I hope
it's probably on the bottom, you can't have it docked and plugged in at the same time, but if it's out of the dock, there should be a port. I would count on it.
I would hope so. I would very much hope so.
I think some of the biggest questions come from the operating system.
Yeah.
Like every time Nintendo releases a new console, it's their big new chance to revamp some things that have been lagging behind for a lot of years. Like the virtual console, are we going to get to carry over our past purchases? Is this going to keep Miiverse? Is there going to be good online play? Will there be voice chat? Because I didn't see any microphones built into any of the controllers or the console. And I didn't see any place to plug in a headset unless it works in the headphone port on the console itself. But then we would need headphone ports on the Pro Controller and, you know, hopefully the grip as well. So is there going to be an eShop? Is there going to be a browser? Can you take movies on the plane with you and watch it on this thing?
I sure as heck hope that there's better online capability as far as playing with your friends, because I know that if I send a message like oh, I'm online, Scott is at home probably, I'm going to send him a message. It's easier to text him and say get online.
I've gone like 2 weeks without seeing a message.
You see it and you're like, oh, there's a faint, you know, pinging thing on my...
Which could always be like one of those billboard advertisement things too.
You never know.
Right. So how much do you think all this stuff costs? We've talked about how the bundle is at least going to come with the console, the dock, and the Joy-Cons.
Now here, cost is where it becomes really, really tricky for me, because I would like it to be inexpensive, and I know that Nintendo wants it to be inexpensive. It's slimmer than it could be, which means that they're going to spend less money on materials. Parts of it look cheap, and I know that you say that they, you know, stress test really well. I showed this video to my wife yesterday, and she looked and she said it looks like it's going to break. And
the screen?
No, the controllers.
Okay.
And I look at the controllers and I go, you know, it could go one way or another. But that kickstand that the screen is on, I look at that and I go, man, that's not going to last a month. And so I'm hoping that with that, it looks like it can be inexpensively made. So I'm hoping that's an indication. There's no motion controls, there's no touch screen. We don't have to worry about the cost going into that. Well, at least as far as we know.
Right. And if no one's screaming for it between now and the time that it's done, I think that Nintendo will leave it out. Right.
Silence the naysayers. So as far as like me getting this thing, I want to wait to see it come out, see if it's, you know, worth the money as far as like durability goes. Right. So I'm gonna wait.
Gotcha. And then there's also the question of, will there be multiple bundles, a basic, a deluxe like there was with the Wii U, and will there be a pack-in game, because they've done that with Wii and Wii U.
Indeed they have.
Wii Sports and Nintendo Land to start out with.
Speaking of the games, we see that they're on cards. Which is cool. And I like cards. I like cartridges. I think they're fun. They're maybe a little bit easier to lose if you don't keep good track of them like I did with your Ocarina of Time. It's got to be somewhere in the house, okay? I'm going to find it.
Okay.
But I like this. I like this new move. It's not as many moving parts.
Moving parts cuts down cost. Spinning a disc costs more than reading a card. But also, spinning parts are easier to break, which is why there's a big move from hard drives with spinning disks to solid state drives in laptops these days. Just lasts a lot longer. Increases the life expectancy.
Digital as opposed to discs, because discs are going to get scratched, they're going to break.
But cartridges do cost more than discs. That's a fact. And these games like Skyrim, stuff like that, Breath of the Wild, these are huge games. We're talking like 60 gigabytes. And if you want that much space, like if you want a 64 gigabyte SD card, that's going to run you $20, $25. So of course, you know, Nintendo is going to be buying these closer to manufacturing costs instead of retail costs. They're going to be buying them in bulk. They're not just buying, you know, one SD card for $20. But I wonder if games are going to be $65 now instead of $60 or whatever. But for one thing is sure, they're definitely pushing this more as a home console than a portable, and I'm sure one of the reasons is going to be the cost of games, because 3DS games are cheaper, and they're like, no, it's not in the same category as that. So this will be a little bit spendy.
It will, and that's something to remember when you buy a game. You're buying not just the physical thing, which costs money, but you're buying people's work, which is another thing. And so you have to weigh out, is it worth the two of those things? Is it worth the person's work, and is it worth the physical thing that you're getting?
Yeah, and we didn't get a specific launch date. It was March 2017, so I'm sure we're probably one direct away from finding that out. There's only so many, weekends in March, so
yeah, where it's. I'm looking forward to the release. I'm looking forward. I'm guessing that you're gonna get it on launch probably. That's what you're hoping.
Yeah,
I'll probably stand in line with you.
I'll
wait. I'll wait to get it for myself, but looking forward to it.
Another big question is, how much is Nintendo going to scrape at our wallets for all the different kind of accessories that this thing can take, different controller configurations, and will they release some special Joy-Cons or maybe even Joy-Con grips? This was sent in by a Two Button Crew member, Ryan, and these look pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, they do.
Just fan mock-ups.
I like, and each one is modeled after a different, Nintendo console controller.
Famicom, SNES, Virtual Boy, N64, GameCube, Wii. They really did a good job capturing the spirit of each of these consoles.
Indeed, I especially like the GameCube one. I like the color of it. I like the color of the buttons. How they did. You can't see it in this picture, but the red B button, green A button. Oh,
that's right.
So cool.
I'm sure Ryan loves the Virtual Boy.
Oh yes.
The Joy-Con grip controller, it's a little bit weird. It's like a square, but I think it's pretty cool.
I think so too.
Could be comfy.
Could be indeed.
Of course, you could go crazy with. I saw like a mock-up of Smash Bros. Like two halves of a GameCube controller sliding down each side of the Switch, with Smash Bros. Running on it. You could have fishing bowls, whatever.
It's going to be crazy. They're going to be able to do cool things. Hopefully, they'll actually sell. The Joy-Con replacements, and we don't have to wait for it forever.
Well, you know what? I'm sure that there will be, because you're gonna want to play with multiple players anyway. I don't think you'll have to buy excuse me. I don't think you'll have to buy a pro controller for everyone that wants to play. I think there will be Joy-Cons for sale.
I'm hoping. Where will they charge? Because it only has slots for 2 of them.
There's so many questions, man.
But there's 4 lights.
So many questions. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being a part of the crew.
Don't forget to...
You don't forget.
Don't forget to buy a t-shirt with Two Button Crew plastered on the front of it. Wear the crew, be the crew. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Switch Week.
See you guys next time.
Signing out.